Well, hello, Desiree. Welcome to the podcast.
I'm super excited to be here. This has been like a long
A
time in
year
the
in the
making.
making.
A long time in the making.
Yes, I know. We first met a year ago through Vid Summit and that filming thing that we did, which I don't even know what happened there.
Video, YouTube, at YouTube. It was
Yeah,
a
but that was so much fun. I definitely miss meeting people in person, but this is the second best thing, meeting over a Skype call. And I love your story. I'm so inspired by your story, and I want to bring you on here so you can share it, as a mother, as someone who started a business. You said this offline. What did you say? Innovation from desperation. So why don't you start with talking to people a little bit about your history in social media and your story?
Yeah, for sure. So, I have been a social media marketer for over 10 years at the time of this recording. So, like what, August, September,
September.
2020. So crazy to think I've been doing something for for 10 years. But especially because it's not something I had ever had any plan of doing. So I think like most millennial kids grew up with the expectation of like, if you do good in school and you go to a good college, you do good in college, you'll get out and there'll be a job waiting for you with a nice paycheck, and then you just live the rest of your life and die. Like that's kind of like what I grew up expecting to experience and do. And I actually wanted to be an animator. I saw Toy Story in theaters in 1995 and was like, when I grow up, I'm going to do that as a kid. Oh, and I was like, I worked towards that goal for literally 12 years. I went to college for multimedia art and animation, and I graduated like ready to take on the world, and the economy just totally tanked. And I had to like move back in with my parents. I was like having to like be a swim instructor in order to like pay any kind of a bills. It was just this whole like super degrading, super defeating thing because the world was like not employed, like my industry was tanking. I was surrounded by my peers who had lots more experience than me that were taking entry level pay gigs away from me. So it really sucked. And so I started like hawking just like design skills at my local networking groups and stuff, and like 10, 12 bucks an hour kind of gigs, and people would still tell me it was too expensive. Like it was a whole thing. But this thing happened around the same time, and it was Facebook. Facebook became available for quote unquote grown-ups. I had it in college when you could only get it with the college email. And like I watched it like replace my MySpace and my top 8 and all that craziness that came with it. And these grown-ups, quote unquote, started asking me, what's this Facebook thing? And so I started using it as a way to network, like, hey, let's get together. I'll tell you about me. I'll show you how you can use Facebook for your business and your brand. And, hopefully you want to hire me or whatever. Well, one day I'm in a networking meeting at a Starbucks, and this guy's name's Kevin. He's like, Desiree, you should do this for a job. And I was like, straight, serious, most serious face of all time. No one's going to pay me to be on Facebook. And I always laugh at that, so does everybody else. It's like I literally eat my words every single day because it's exactly what my job is now. So I started doing a bunch of research and realized like this is actually a thing I could do. Like, why not? Like, it really became my mantra at this point in life. It's like, what have I got to lose? Like, I'm kind of at rock bottom as much as I can be at this point. Why not try this Facebook social thing out? And lo and behold, it's become my family's bread and butter, our income. I'm the breadwinner now, 10 years later. I've established myself as one of the leading like social media experts in my field. I have a fairly decent YouTube channel that like teaches about it, and all of these things. I've written a book. I've spoken all over the country. I'm about to expand into the world. All of these things just because someone told me, Desiree, you should do this Facebook thing, and I didn't believe that it could be an actual possibility. And it's just been this insane ride, like this crazy journey of like, not only did I not know what I was doing, like entrepreneurial life was never something I'd ever entertained, even actually really know it was an option. And also trying to do it while in an industry and with a job that didn't exist. Like social media managers in 2010, it wasn't
A
something
thing.
people did, right? It was a thing. So it's like two complete unknowns trying to figure it out, and it's so much education and teaching people why their kids can't do it, and interns shouldn't be handling their online brand, and why it's important and how it's not going anywhere. And then watching social networks rise and die, and just all the crazy changes that happen in social media, and also all the crazy changes that have happened in my life at the same time. And like how I've dealt with both of them is just been a little nuts.
Yeah. So what were you doing? So at the start, when you started your social media business, was it working with brands and with their socials, or what exactly were you doing?
So it was a lot of like working with individual businesses. So I started off a lot with like restaurants, small like brick and mortar businesses like beauty salons and forward thinking senior citizens sort of things, for profit certification schools, like just really finding anybody that was open to the idea of using the internet to build their brand and grow.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so much educating. There was a lot of things like doing Foursquare and Facebook and Twitter and like bringing it all together, creating Facebook landing pages, and then that would go away, and like all of just the things that would happen. And it was this constant state of staying up to date and educating people about how it worked and trying to get them to just pay me for it.
Yeah. So, having been in this industry for a long time, like what are the changes that you've seen in this industry of, working with clients as a social media manager?
I think that the biggest changes that I've seen is just it's the necessity of it. It started out as this thing where it's like staying connected with your family and friends, and you could make a Facebook page and people would just flock to it because they're like, what a business, and I can talk to them, like that's a thing, like this is crazy talk. It's just all this thing. But the biggest change I would say is the necessity of it. Like you honestly can't have a brand, you can't have a business without some kind of social presence, because it's literally this like two-folded combination that happens with internet marketing, where it's like you have to have a website, right? So people can find you and get your base of information. But then social media like proves to people that like you are in business, that your lights are still on, that you still care about things. These are the things that you're doing, and this is why you're the experts, and here's the latest information about what's going on, and hey, this is our story. Hey, let's connect eye to eye, person to person, like all of these things. Like you can't really have one without the other. I think that all of us at some point in time have thought or heard the phrase, if I go to someone's Instagram or Facebook page and they haven't posted in like 3-6 months, a year, I don't think they're in business anymore. And so it's my job to make sure that they stay relevant, that they stay active, that they're keeping their virtual lights on so that they can continue to thrive and grow while they're doing their job.
That's so true. It is almost like for any business, even from a small business like a hairstylist or a restaurant, all the way up to these big corporations, social media is a huge essential component to their success, to bringing in new business.
100%. Like I said it myself, like if you're not on social media, if you're not actively posting, people don't think you're in business. It's just how it is nowadays. And I think that it's definitely probably a younger demographic thing, but we're this younger demographic, these kids are now the people leading our economy now. And so it's like you need to adapt those situations, just like we millennials are needing to adapt and learn about what this Gen Z stuff is doing, and how they're spending their time and doing all this kind of stuff. So keeping up with it is a lot of work, and figuring out how it works is a lot of work. And at any point in time, there's someone who's decided to go into business for themselves or build some brand or make a page, and they're like, what do I do? And that's what I'm here to help guide them through.
Yeah. And so what social platforms do you think are the best for business owners?
I honestly think that there's no one answer for this. I think that we could all kind of say, like, nowadays you have to have a website and you also have to have a Facebook page. Like, I feel like you can't have one without the other anymore. But then it's like, okay, how active are you going to be, and what are you going to do on it, and how are you going to stay relevant there? And it's a lot to keep up with. Like recently, Facebook did this big like interface change, and everyone hates it. But it's like we all have to accept it and figure out how to use it, and like that's a whole thing, and it's all this kind of stuff. I think that there's a lot. I think the different social networks have a different place. Like I think that Facebook is sort of like this general place to like grow a brand and do stuff, and then you can get into micro things like a Facebook group and all that kind of stuff. But then when you go into like Instagram, it's very like, it's all very visual and like instant and storytelling. And it's like, it's just beautiful and done in connect, like a way to connect with people through stories or Instagram. You have LinkedIn, which is where if you are like in a business space and you do business with other businesses, it's a very great place for you to thrive. I have so many friends that have been able to build 6- and 7-figure brands just by being on LinkedIn. There's something to be said for Twitter, like how Twitter can build your brand. And if you are like snappy and have lots of ideas and you have these quick thoughts, like if you're a Gary Vee style person, or you're someone that lives in a city, or you're someone who's like building this brand of like sharp wit and being present and always sharing and doing this stuff, like Twitter's a great place for you to be. So it's about finding like the right home for you. And also it has to be this combination of successful for you and that you enjoy being there. And it takes time to figure that out.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So it really has to do with the strengths of the person, or even like the personality of the brand, like what kind of brand it is, for them to figure out what place they fit in.
Yes. And like I said, once you know, like you kind of know, once you find the success and what works, like even for me, like my business's success, this is like super contradictory to everything I teach people. My business thrives on YouTube. Like that's how I grow my business, is with YouTube, and I back it up with Instagram. Like it's like you come to YouTube for the information, you stay on Instagram for the Desiree time. Like, and like that's where like how my brand sits and does its thing. But I'm like, if like you go to my YouTube channel and you look at the videos I'm most known for, it's how to do things in Facebook, because I also manage these other brands' Facebook page, and this is how I found success for them. And I speak from that place, because there's such a big difference. Like personal brands like don't do great on Facebook, like as a business page. They do great on Instagram and on YouTube, but like a business, like a local brick and mortar, or like a local dentist, lawyer, like those kinds of things, those places do great on Facebook.
What do they do on like? And for me, Facebook is something I really only use for the groups. And I have a Facebook page, but like you said, as a personal brand, it doesn't really do anything. But I do find a lot of value in the groups. But for brands like that, brick and mortar brands, how do they best utilize Facebook group to help their business? I'm not group, but Facebook pages to help their business.
So what you're wanting to do with Facebook to help like yourself as a business, as a brick and mortar, is it's just being topical and being relevant and sharing what's happening right now. It's honestly what you do with a lot of places, but you're talking about like, hey, this is Susie, and she came in and she got new braces in. Like, look at this great smile, and give her some likes, for that big smile she's got. Or like, this is what the family's been doing, or this is what like how we're spending our time in our practice, like doing everything. Look at us behind the scenes. Like it's where you're able to build like those personal, like those glimpses into like the behind the scenes of a brand or a business that do really well. If you can answer questions that people ask you in those forums, you can do a lot in the messages, and with bot marketing, if like you want to get real aggressive, to like you can remind people, hey, it's time for your 6-month cleaning with like bot automation. The other real great value in Facebook pages for brick and mortar business is the ad targeting. You can't do location-based ad targeting without a Facebook page. You can't even do it without Instagram. Like in order for Instagram ads to work, you have to have a Facebook account because they're owned by each other. But it's just this crazy thing where it's like you can be very, very incredibly effective with ads, and it's going to happen through that business account. And they're going to see that you're active and you're doing things and you're giving value there.
Yeah. So how are you using YouTube to bring in business? Like you said, YouTube has been a great tool for you to help generate business. How do you use it?
So I'm a resource channel on YouTube. So YouTube is where I'm like, how do you do things? So it's like how to create a Facebook page, how to link your Facebook to your Instagram, how to set up a LinkedIn page. Today's video on my YouTube channel was how to create a LinkedIn company page. There's just all of these things that you can do with how-tos that I'm trying to solve people's problems. And I can kind of make some deductions that, yes, I'm going to have people that are like, how to create a Facebook page, and they're going to be like, have nothing to do with who I could help in any way, shape, or form. But I will find plenty of like small business owners and solopreneurs who come there that are like, what else does this chick have to offer? Or they watch my video and more of my other like theory videos or how-to videos like pop up. They're like, oh yeah, that looks like something I'm also interested in. Let me click it. And I build my brand success by my opt-ins. So like I get YouTube ads, of course, I get affiliate marketing, of course, but I'm a list builder. Like I try to make sure every single one of my videos shout outs to a list of some kind that I have that supports it. Even if it's something like, hey, how to create a Facebook page, is like, in order for your Facebook page to be effective, you need to have a content plan for that. So I want you to go grab my freebie I have for you down in the description. That's how it's about my freebie for how to create a content plan. It's a one-pager. Go pick it up. And I'll grow my list like 10 to 15 emails a day just for making sure I'm shouting that one thing out in all of my videos and tying it back in. Because if I can communicate with people outside of my one-off videos, that's how I can make sales. That's how I can get my affiliates. That's how I can promote my sponsors. It's how I can promote videos and all of that other stuff. So it helps funnel what I'm doing. And then I knew from the beginning, at some point, I was going to have a digital service or product I wanted to offer to people, because how my business works is do it for you. But I'm like, I need something in between do it for you and free. And so I'm launching my One Video Club membership soon, and I'm going to have this list I've been cultivating for a long time and nurturing and giving value to, so that I'm like, when I'm ready to give my ask, I've got customers.
Yeah, I mean, that's so important. And I always say that too with an email list, is to build that email list. Even if you don't know what you want to do with it, is to just build it. I know for me, I did the exact same thing. Like I built an email list before launching my boot camp. And by the time I launched it, I had an email list of people that was a dedicated email list of people that all wanted to start a YouTube channel, or they already had a YouTube channel. And so when that time came, boom, I filled up my boot camp easily, because I had been spending years before that not doing anything. But the one thing I was doing was building up an email list. I wasn't selling anything. That's what I meant, not doing anything. So it's so smart to do.
Yeah, like I said, I'm like 3 years into YouTube, and besides promoting my book, I haven't asked them to buy anything from me. So the time is coming.
Yeah. But you're also though getting, like you said, business clients from your YouTube.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've run into over the years with my industry is a lot of people that do a bad job. And so these bitter taste in people's mouth. They don't think social media works. It's not for them, and all of these things. And it's because people did it wrong and people didn't know what they're talking about. So if I can show them, look, I've got over 400 videos where I'm teaching people everything about social media and how to use it and how it works and how it applies. And I have video testimonials and applications, all this kind of stuff. Like I'm like, there's no way for me not to be good at this. And at this point, I kind of really know like who my customers are and who aren't. Like I know who I can service best and who I can't. And it's really just like I've been able to get bigger contracts with people because of these videos that I've created, because they want something but they don't have time to do it, and they know the combination of like the mission of my business and also the expertise and the time I've been in this. They're like, obviously Desiree is the one that we need to have on here.
What would you say is a mission of your business?
So when I started off doing social media in 2010, it was very much just like figuring out what it was and doing it. In 2014, though, end of 2013, I became a wife and found out we were pregnant, and my husband joined the Air Force. And it was a very sort of natural step for us to take. It seemed at the time we both grew up military kids, and we were in a position in life where we were like, what do we want to be when we grow up? And what is responsibility? And like, we're like 28 years old. And so it was like figuring it out. And so we had a bunch of things that we had wanted that military life could provide for us. So we went in and we got stationed in the middle of nowhere in Texas. And the town that we were in didn't like hiring military spouses. And it was this really crappy situation, because it's like these educated women couldn't get fast food jobs because of who they married, because when the mission needs you, they
were going to move. Yeah.
Go up. And it wasn't even about moving, because even the base that we were at, there wasn't a lot of moving. It was really a lot of just like, we don't like how when the military says jump, all of you have to jump versus just the service member. And so I was like, I remember growing up this way. Exactly. My mom had a hard time with getting jobs and working. And there was a point where we were stationed overseas where she had to come back to the States to work to supplement family income. And it was just one of those things that's like, why? Like, why is this still an issue after 25 years? And so I'm like, I have this really big base of knowledge. I have 5 years at the time of social media marketing experience. I bet I could teach military spouses how to be social media managers and then put them to work. And so I launched All-in-One Social Media in September of 2015, and it really was this mission to let me help you grow your business with better social media with our do-it-for-you services while putting military spouses to work anywhere that they're stationed around the world as social media managers so they could supplement their family's income. And I think for as long as I am in business, I'm always going to have that as a part of how the business runs, because helping my military spouse community is just so important to me, because we get the short end of the stick constantly. And so if it's a way for me to give back to this community that has helped me and that I love and so many things. So I talk pretty openly about the mission and how we do on the channel in a way that makes sense. And so it's just bridging it together. And once people know, they're even that much more invested in working with us.
That's awesome. So are you basically helping and training these military wives? And as an agency, you like if people come through you and they hire one of your military wives?
So it's basically like I act as the project manager for the account. So like let's say that Erika Vieira wanted to have one of our work together to have their social media done for you. I have a team of trained military spouses that are up to date with all things that are social media related, and we have our systems and our packages, and then we would just take all of the information that you provide for us about your brand and stuff, and then we would take the burden of you having to come up with messaging and manage it and schedule the content calendar and stuff off of your plate, and at the same time, you're also giving those military spouses money.
That's amazing. Yeah. So, okay, I get it now. Yeah. So it's like an agency. You can kind of connect the people. Okay. You're connecting the businesses with the, basically the person to do the work.
Yeah. It's a service that they needed anyway, but there's this extra good feeling of not only am I getting something I need done that I hate doing or I suck at or I don't want to spend all this time figuring out, and I also get to help someone. So it's like a win.
That's amazing. And so how does that then fit into is that your main agency as a whole, or do you also work with the business clients as well?
So that it's both. So whenever you're working with me for social media marketing, consulting, all that kind of stuff, it's under the All-in-One Social Media umbrella, which usually trickles down to my team.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I love that it's like women helping other women. I think that's so inspiring and incredible that you saw this and you're like, you know what? I want to take my knowledge and I want to help these women who are having a hard time finding jobs anyways, and help them find employment.
Yep, basically how it came down. It's sort of the see a need, fill a need. And it's been it's something about having that mission that really sits for, because if you think about social media marketers, and we're kind of a dime a dozen, they're everywhere. Everyone and their mom includes it with something like a PR or online or SEO. And it's well, what's special about you? And it's well, besides my 10 years of experience, well, also we have this mission. So it's you're, like I said, adding that feel good. I never expected my mission to be part of our marketing, but it was just something that seemed natural fit. But it really has helped us get more business and has opened more doors to us that we would have had any other way, because there's so many people out there in the world, specifically in the United States, that have been touched by military life, whether it's they have a family member that served, or they've been a spouse, or they've lost somebody that they know, to combat or whatever it's been, and they understand there's a very deep education in the States about what military life is quote unquote and the struggles that military spouses face, but there's not really an easy way to know how to help them. And so this is this really simple way for businesses to be it's like I said, they're literally coming to me because they need help, and the help we can give them also helps other people. And so it's just a really nice circle that connects all the dots.
I love that. That's awesome. So you also are the author of a book. So tell me how that whole thing came about, because I think that's amazing as well.
So my book story actually kind of happened in a really funny way. We had moved from South Korea to Las Vegas, but all our stuff was in Texas. And
Oh,
so I
wow.
had to fly from Las Vegas to Texas to pick up all of our stuff and drive our car back while my husband stayed in Las Vegas to do his in-processing with our kids. And I was listening at the time, the Rachel Hollis Girl Wash Your Face book was really popular and had just come out. And I was like, I needed books. I listened to books while I drive. So I was listening to the book. I'm listening to her book and I'm having this thought of like, she's really just like telling the story of herself and how her business came to be. And I was just starting to like document and write down in different, like I use Google Keep for notes and stuff. And I was like thinking about all of these stories and instances over the past 10 years that have been these lessons for me. And it just kind of culminated. And I had said last year in 2019 at the end, I was like, I really want to write a book. I think like it's time to tell this story because there's not anybody in the social media marketing space that's talking about what it's been like to be a social media person and to be online, but also like what it's like to live through it, what it's like to be a woman through it, what it's like to be a mom through it, what it's like to struggle through the really ugly, gross, fall on your face parts of entrepreneurship. Because all our marketing books are always these like really glowing case studies.
Yeah.
It's never, hey, I literally was dragged through the mud for 2 years with people like undercutting me and taking money from me and taking my systems from me and being told that why would I pay you for this and that like you don't have value. And it's like no one's talking about those ugly things along with the like connection of motherhood and military life and like where like I'm at now and like how you can live a life and also have something happen at the same time. So my story, in my book, Innovation from Desperation, is all about these failures and successes of being an entrepreneur, of being a mom, of being a wife, with social media being the pillar of it all. And I just talk about it. And so like if I describe it to people, it's kind of like if Rachel Hollis and Jay Baer wrote a book together. Like Jay Baer is this like marketing legend, and it's like the merging of these two worlds. And I mean I put my heart and soul into it, and you know, obviously the hard part is marketing it. But
Yeah, that is.
and like you think it would be writing it and living it, which was super emotional, but it was just this whole like thing. And like people that have been able to read the book are just like, I felt every word of this. And I'm glad someone finally wrote about how awful entrepreneur life is.
Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, it's so true. I mean, that's the thing, even like what I've experienced. It's like, especially being a mother with like little kids. I mean, we talked about, I mean, your kids are super close in age, like mine are, and they're really little. And being able to almost as like a mother and a woman to be able to do it all, right? You want to do the business, but you also want to be a good mom and you want to be able to do everything. And there's so many moments that are just not shiny and pretty. I mean, I remember doing like coaching calls when I first launched my boot camp while I was nursing my daughter. You know, I'm like, no, we can't really do it on camera. Technical difficulties, but it's like, I got to nurse her. So sorry. Or, you know, just up till 3 a.m. and whatever. It's like, as a mother, you just kind of, and not just mothers, but I think anything with entrepreneurship, but I think definitely as mothers, there's so much that's beyond your control, like your kids and what they need from you. And you have to just make do and do your work when you can and get help where you can so that you can actually put that vision you have into light and actually make it happen.
Yeah, and I don't think that motherhood and entrepreneurship is about having it all. It's about having a life where you have control of all the parts of it, like within your means control. Like you can't control when customers leave or when your kids completely not only lose their minds in the grocery store. Like those are things that are beyond anyone's control. But it's sort of like what it's like to live through it. Like we're in a very interesting time in the world, not just because of COVID and the pandemic, but the sociological things that are happening in these different sorts of communities and in these specific sorts of clusters of things. Like, we're obviously having a lot of things around like racial diversity and Democrats versus Republicans, but we're also facing a very interesting time for women, specifically mothers, through this because of COVID, because of the pandemic. Moms have been hit really hard from an unemployment and a work standpoint, where it's like they are basically default expected to quit their jobs or figure out how to work from home while caring for their kids.
Yeah.
And it's a very large part. Like, if you look at the unemployment rate and you're to analyze it from like a different perspective of like just men versus women, there's more women in this space that are unemployed because they're expected to take care of their kids, and it's really hard. And entrepreneurship allows for a little bit more freedom. We're all super crazy frustrated with dealing with it and trying to balance the two. But it's also these situations, like, if we don't talk about the struggles, if we don't talk about how to deal with it and how it's okay to completely and utterly suck at it, to be completely utterly mentally drained from it, and also be able to share like how we've been able to find these glimmers of success in these moments, we're going to completely be set back more than we as women already are, which is why it's so important to share your stories, as ugly as they are, to forget the filter of social media, and to just find a place where you can be heard and have representation. And I think that just starts by showing up for amongst the people that you are, and like being vulnerable and real about what's going on. And my book is totally about being vulnerable and real. Like, I talk about like what I am dealing with. Like, if I had to isolate the story to myself right now in COVID, I have to work full time, and my husband takes care of our kids because he is a stay-at-home dad. And the reason my husband is in a position of being a stay-at-home dad and I am the breadwinner is because my husband has PTSD. So not only do I have to shoulder the financial burden, but I'm also shouldering the emotional burden of my 2 kids and my husband, while he's figuring out how to work through what he needs to do to get better. And so it's like, how does that work? And I can tell you the number one thing is my kitchen is always dirty. Always. And it's just like, because you know what? You have to give up some things at some point. And one of the things that is helpful with dealing with these really emotional situations by working at home and working for myself, there are some times where I have to completely trash my calendar because I am emotionally needed by other people. And it's hard. And it's sort of like, at some point, I have to ask myself the question, is like, while I'm taking care of all these other people, who is taking care of me? Yeah. And it's a question I think that all women are all mothers, and I can speak very specifically to mothers in this situation, all mothers are kind of asking themselves right now, how am I supposed to take care of me when I can't go anywhere, I can't go do anything, I don't feel safe leaving my house because I could bring COVID back and get my kids sick or myself sick, and like, what happens if I, the mom, get sick? Like, oh my gosh, like, it would just be a disaster, right? So it's just dealing with all that stuff, and I think and I said, that's a lot of like what I addressed in my book over these past 10 years and how I've had to work through it and what it looked like.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think as women, we are shouldering a lot of responsibility, and with everything that's happening right now, the burden does fall on the mothers a lot of time. And it's like, especially my heart goes out to moms of like school-age kids. I'm glad that mine are still little, that I'm not dealing with, all these different lessons online. And I mean, it just sounds insane. And I know from a lot of my friends and that I know that are dealing with it. I mean, it's hard. It's hard. A lot of moms are at their breaking point, and it's like, I don't have an answer to it, but it's hard. Yeah, there is no answer. But the beauty of what you and I are talking about is, and why I believe so strongly in YouTube and online, is because there is no barrier to entry. That there's nobody stopping you from starting a channel. There's nobody stopping you from going online. And that as women, we have this opportunity to be able to spread our message and our mission. You have a beautiful mission, Desiree, and you can leverage social media and these powerful platforms to be able to get out there and change lives, and also at the same time change your own life and your family's life, because you're now bringing in an income, and you're a great testament to that. And that's why I absolutely love YouTube and social media, and that's why I do what I do when it comes to women, because I do believe so strongly in these platforms that give women opportunities.
I agree 100%. I say this all the time to people, like you can future proof your income if you put the work into YouTube. And there's like, it's beyond AdSense. Like that's literally everyone thinks is like the reason to get on YouTube is AdSense. Like they think they're going to make money. And I'm like, you know what? I have 13,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. I had like 82,000 views last month on my channel, and I made like $750 on AdSense.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody paying for anything for a family of four out of $750 a month, which is why our whole unemployment issue is a thing, right? So it's like, no, it's like, it's building these different things. Like we as YouTube educators are in this fortunate position of knowing how to have multiple streams of income. And you know, we have like really great educators outside of being women. Like Roberto Blake is like the king of the multiple streams of income.
Yeah,
It's like
he's great.
jam. But people want women now. People are like, how can I find women to represent my brand? How can I find women communities to be a part of? Like, how can you as a woman bring a different perspective to my tool, to my service, to my product that can allow for me to do it? And like, what does your community look like? What's the community you want to build? Because the community you build will dictate the products and the digital services that you offer to people. Like there's just so much that comes from it and so much freedom that comes from it that never, and like I said, I can say my last 10 years of social media marketing, there's never been a clear, more common sense option or reason to become a YouTuber, which is so weird to say like, yeah, I'm a YouTuber, because it's almost like saying back when we were kids, I'm going to be an actor when I grow up, right? That's just what this has become. It's this big rock star dream. But in fact, and I teach people, like I used to teach my interns this, and I teach people this all the time. Social media marketing is not recording cool videos for Starbucks and Target all the time. It's not being this cool, hip brand. It is oftentimes normal, everyday businesses that need help marketing their businesses that will pay you your income, that will give you the financial freedom that you want, because you can't just sit around waiting for the big, huge, fancy paid, you know, brands to give you attention, because also they pay you like shit. But it's just like all these things. It's like, you are able to be a YouTuber for literally anything you want.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I know that I haven't got to mention this yet, but like in the Women of YouTube podcast that I do with TubeBuddy, I interviewed this woman. She has a channel that I forget what it's called, but she's red and her partner that's on is blue. They're red and blue. And they have a whole channel about explaining history, like mythological Greek, Egyptian, Roman history. And she does it with this really quirky animation style, and she talks super fast. And she has like 1.3 million subscribers, and that's just her job, is to draw stuff and talk about history really fast on the internet. There's literally anything you want, you can make into a YouTube channel.
No, and that's so, I love it. And that's so true. And I want to touch on your top podcast in a little bit, but it's so true. Like anything you want, like anything it's like, I interviewed, I remember a few years ago, Sweet Ams, and her entire channel is about decorating cookies. I mean, it's like she has over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, 1 million followers on Instagram, and she decorates cookies. But now she has classes where she teaches people, and then there's like, you know, merchandise she has, and there's anything you can do it on YouTube. And I just interviewed Hiram, who has his skincare with Hiram, and he's grown crazy. And he said something so smart, and he says, followers are the new currency. And it's so true. Like you said, there's never been a more clear-cut answer in regards to what to do today. And YouTube is it. YouTube is such a fantastic way to grow your following.
It's not just about growing a following. It's building a community around something that is so specific.
Yeah.
I'm a nerd. I am a big nerd. And I was a closet nerd for a really long time. Like I was like this athlete, like president of the clubs. Like that's who I was growing up. But I was at home. I was this big dork who like loved Harry Potter and art and animation, all these new things. So like, and being a nerd is how I met my husband. And so it's literally like, this was my first like introduction to like these micro communities based around something so specific. Like there's this group of people called brown coats. Brown coats are people that like Joss Whedon TV shows, specifically starting with Firefly and he's like in a change. And so it's just a very specific,
so niche. Yeah.
this gigantic following of people that just continues to grow and grow. It's just so weird and crazy, like all these like fandoms and quirky little things that start with one group and then they continue to grow because like those groups have kids and then their kids get into it, and like that's why Star Wars is still relevant. That is why Star Trek is having a resurgence, and all these other things that we loved as kids, and because we're making our kids like them too. But it's just, there's literally someone for everyone on YouTube, and if you think that there isn't, you need to go be that person.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. That is awesome. All right, Desiree. So why don't you share with people where they can find you, a little bit about the podcast, the Women of YouTube podcast, and where they can find you.
So you can find me everywhere, just starting at mrsdesireerose.com, MRSDESIREEROSE.com. Like that'll take you to all my places. And as far as like the Women of YouTube podcast, if you love Erika's podcast, definitely consider checking out the Women of YouTube podcast, because we're talking to women YouTube creators about their stories, how they become YouTube creators, and giving you advice and experiences that they've had specifically around like being a creator, to inspire you to keep creating, and hopefully, if you haven't started yet, inspire you to start creating on YouTube. And we do it in partnership with TubeBuddy, which I know has done a lot of stuff with Erika as well. And it's just, I love it because, again, it's the idea of like, the podcast exists because representation matters. This big conference that I go to every year, like, went all in on YouTube one year, and every single YouTube educator that they brought in was a man, and they're great men. They know their stuff. Eric and I spent plenty of time with all of them, but there was still no female representation. And when 60% of marketers are women, why wouldn't you have at least one female YouTube educator? And so I approached TubeBuddy about doing this Women of YouTube panel, and everyone wanted more. And so I did not obviously have the capacity to do another YouTube channel because, as y'all know, it's a lot of work. So I made it into a podcast, and I launched Women of YouTube podcast at the same conference I got to meet Erika at in 2019, which is all, at Bid Summit, which is another conference where there's just such a minimal female representation because bro culture is rampant amongst YouTube educators, when in fact, we lady YouTubers have a very strong position. We just don't have a place to go, which is why the podcast exists.
Well, that's amazing. I love celebrating other women who are doing amazing things. So it's just such an honor to have you, Desiree, on the podcast. And thank you so much. This has been awesome.
I appreciate you and everything that you're doing. And I'm going to tell you the same thing I tell everybody that I interview. You are impossibly amazing. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Desiree. Bye.
Bye.